Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We're glad that you're here. I'm Steve,
And I'm Scott.
and together we are Backyard Musings, the Science and Technology channel.
We like to think so. And we're talking about a health topic. I guess this would be considered a health topic, right? Has to do with your memory and trying to improve it. So here we go. This is an interesting story.
Before we jump in, Scott, you remember when that visiting general authority came for the stake
Reorganization.
change of command or whatever?
Reorganization, yeah.
Yeah. And that guy, Peter Johnson, he shook at a leadership meeting. He was shaking hands and introduced by name. And then you'd see him an hour later and he'd say, "Hey, Steve," or "Hey, Scott." And he was calling people by name, like dozens of people. How was he doing that?
Like he'd known them for
The
years.
next day, too, at church, the next day.
Yeah, remarkable.
Remarkable. Okay, memory has limits, but can be improved with focus, chunking, and spaced repetition.
Oh, I thought that was chungking, like the Chinese food. So
Focus, chunking, and spaced repetition. Testing recall and reducing distractions are key to remembering more effectively. Research suggests that improving memory may be less about ability and more about subtle shifts in daily habits. A handful of science-backed techniques, ranging from reducing distractions to rethinking how we revisit information, can quietly reshape how the brain holds on to what matters. Together, they hint at simple changes that could make remembering feel far more effortless. Would you like to know more?
Okay, here we go with the quote. As a researcher investigating how electric brain stimulation can improve people's powers of recollection, I'm often asked how memory works and what we can do to use it more effectively. Happily, decades of research have given us some clear answers to both questions. Close quote. Memory essentially operates in three stages, with different brain regions contributing to each one. Sensory memory, which can last only milliseconds, registers raw information such as sights, sounds, and smells. These are first processed by the brain's 5 primary sensory cortexes: visual cortex for sights, auditory cortex for sounds, and so on.
Okay, so 5 primary sensory. So touch, smell, sight, audio, and whatever else. I don't know what the other one would be.
Smell?
Smell. Okay. All right. Working short-term memory holds and manipulates a small amount of information over several seconds or more. Think of this as your brain's mental workspace, the system that lets you do mental arithmetic, follow instructions, and comprehend what you're reading. So it mainly involves the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain that supports attention, decision-making, and reasoning.
Finally, long-term memory stores information more permanently, from minutes to a lifetime. This includes both explicit memories, like facts and life events, and implicit ones, skills, habits, and emotional associations. For long-term memories, the hippocampus, am I saying that right?
Hippocampus.
Hippocampus and temporal lobes, located deep within the brain, around the sides of your head near your temples, contribute largely to memories involving facts or life events, while the amygdala, is that, I remember hearing about that in Andy Griffith's show, I think. Anyway, near the hippocampus, cerebellum at the back of the brain, and basal ganglia deep in the brain process emotional or procedural memories.
Working memory often acts as a conscious gateway to long-term memory, but it has its limits. In 1956, the American psychologist George Miller proposed that we can only hold about 7 chunks of information in our working memory at any time.
While the exact number is debated to this day, the principle holds. Working memory is limited, and that limitation can shape how effectively we learn and remember things. But you can also get your memory working more effectively. Here are 5 easy steps for improving both your working and long-term memory.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get to it. Put your phone away. Smartphones reduce your working memory capacity. Even just having a phone nearby, no matter if it's face down and on silent, can reduce performance on memory and reasoning tasks. The reason is that part of your brain is still subtly monitoring it. Even resisting the urge to check notification concerns mental resources, which is why researchers sometimes call smartphones a brain drain. The solution is simple: put your phone in another room when you need to focus. Out of sight really does free up mental capacity.
So I agree with that wholeheartedly because, you used to be able to memorize things like social security number, address, phone number, date of birth, all these things. And now, and I'm not just talking about your own, I'm talking about your spouses or your friends or your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. And people don't memorize that stuff anymore. Oh, it's in my phone. I don't even know the phone number. I just type in the person's name and the phone calls it automatically. So it is. It's making our brains less functioning, I think, when it comes to, at least when it comes to memory. So, okay, number two.
I think that includes a spouse and girlfriend, or spouse and boyfriend too. Well, you can lump that into there too.
Yeah.
Stress.
Go ahead.
Stress and anxiety can so stop your mind racing. Stress and anxiety can take up valuable mental space. When you're worrying about something or distracted by racing thoughts, part of your working memory is already in use. Relaxation training and mindfulness practices can improve both working memory and academic performance, probably by reducing stress levels. And if meditation feels intimidating, try breathing techniques such as cyclic sighing. Inhale deeply through your nose, take a second, shorter inhale, then slowly exhale through your mouth. Repeating this for 5 minutes can calm the nervous system and create better conditions for learning. Or you can do as the Savior said, contemplate the lilies. They don't care about anything. Things happen. They just rely on God. You can do that. Don't worry.
Yep. Okay, number 3, get chunking. Everyone can expand their working memory using the technique of chunking, grouping information into meaningful units. In fact, you probably already do it to remember some phone numbers or lists of words, breaking long sequences into bite-sized chunks that your brain can recall as a mini group. The same principle apply if you're delivering a presentation to help your audience remember your key points more effectively. Chunking would involve grouping 10 case studies, say, into 3 or 4 themes, each with a short headline and single key takeaway. We're supposed to read all these, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Repeat the structure on each slide. One idea, a few supporting details, then move on. By organizing information in meaningful patterns, you reduce cognitive load and make it more memorable. Okay.
Well, the next one is become a retriever. In the 19th century, German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus demonstrated how quickly we forget information after learning it. Within about 30 minutes, we lose roughly half of what we have learned. I believe that, with much more fading over the next day. Just try studying for classes in college. Ebbinghaus called this the forgetting curve. The light blue line on the chart below, well, they had a chart in the article, and I didn't include it on the graphic. However, there's a way of ensuring that more sinks in when you're trying to learn a lot of information in a short period of time. Retrieval practice. When preparing to give a talk or studying for exam, rather than simply rereading your notes, keep testing how much you remember. Use flashcards, answer practice questions, or try explaining the material out loud without notes. Memory works through associations. Each time you successfully retrieve information, you link the material to new prompts, examples, and contexts. This builds more cues to accessing the information and strengthens each memory pathway. Often we forget the memory isn't gone. We just lack the right retrieval cue.
Okay, number 5, give yourself a break. Research shows that memory is more effective when study or practice sessions are spread out rather than massed together. If you're studying for an exam, build solid blocks of downtime into your revision schedule. The dark blue line on the chart above, which is in the same article you said, above illustrates how spacing out your practice sessions can help you remember more information over time by adjusting Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. One study suggests leaving gaps between each revision session that equate to 10 to 20% of the time left until your exam or presentation. So if your deadline is 5 days away and you do hours of revision a day, you should still take between a half and a full day off in between sessions. In other words, don't overdo it. You probably won't see the rewards. So when I started out in the supply house business in the late 70s, it was all, we did everything manually. We wrote stuff down on an invoice. The invoice was processed manually by somebody in the office. The bill was mailed to the customer if they didn't pay for it at the counter. And so we had to remember a lot of stuff. And I would memorize the part numbers to make my job easier. Not that I was trying to, be cool or anything. I just did it to make my job easier. And then one day I had a visiting, I guess you could say like a visiting authority. He was a guy from a very large branch in this company that had just purchased us. And we were talking, and he'd been a buyer for years and years and years. And I was just getting into it. And he said, it's okay. And he noticed my recollection for part numbers. And then I started spouting pricing. And he said, you want to back off on memorizing the pricing because pricing changes maybe multiple times in a month. So he said, memorize the product and the part number for the product, but do not ever memorize pricing. And actually, I didn't listen to him right away, and it got me into trouble. It got me into trouble a couple of times. I wrote down the wrong price on an invoice, and I caught a little grief from the owner about it, or the boss. And so then, I started doing that. But for whatever reason, I've had a knack of memorizing numbers, phone numbers, doing simple math in my head. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember a lot of other stuff that I should, but that's been something that's just, I don't know. I've had an easy go with that, or I know a lot of people that don't, but that, and also where you can get product from. That was a thing that I kind of mastered as well. So now that I'm retired, my memory is out there. So, but I still remember where to go to the bathroom, where the refrigerator is, and whether we have milk or not. So important stuff. Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you in the morning.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.